So I will continue the dissection of the shark. The last recording cut out at a certain point. So I was talking about the babies inside the female reproductive tract. So I'll go ahead and take a look at those one more time. All right, so these large structures on either side, remember, are oviducts. They connect to some ovaries, which would be way up here, this little thing. But inside of this, we actually found baby sharks. All right, so here's an example of one of them. All right, so as I was saying, in some species like the sand tiger sharks, the babies actually eat one another. So the first one to develop usually eats its brothers and sisters, and then the shark gives birth to like one or two babies rather than 5 or 6. Now, that doesn't happen in all sharks, or maybe not even in most sharks, but it does happen in a few of them. All right, so let me move this guy out of the way. Now, what I did during that break was cut open the digestive tract. So here you can see the inside of the stomach. So notice that the stomach has got these folds in it. These are called rugae. And, you know, sharks frequently will eat really large pieces of food. Occasionally we'll cut open one of these sharks and there'll be like whole fish inside of its stomach. The rugae allow the stomach to expand considerably. Now, if you travel on up a little further, at some point you start to see papillae appear in the anterior part of the digestive tract here. This marks the end of the esophagus. Now, I have some photos of some papillae from a dogfish shark, which are really well developed. Like I said, I don't think this shark is a dogfish. It's another species of shark. And there's a structure here, but it doesn't really look like papillae to me. This is definitely the end of the esophagus. In dogfish, they definitely have papillae. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is what's going on with the intestine. So earlier, I had mentioned that the intestine in a shark is really, really short, whereas in us, it's super long. So what's going on? Don't sharks need a longer time to digest like we do? Well, yes, they do. And so what happens to slow food down and to provide a greater surface, sharks have added something called a spiral valve. So when you open the intestine here, you can see that there's actually these little partitions in it. And the way these work is as food goes through, it sort of goes around and around very, very slowly until it reaches the rectum. So that's a really interesting adaptation because it allows the shark to have a short intestine, yet still have the food have to take a very long trip to get out. And that gives it plenty of time for the food to be broken down before any waste is excreted. So one final thing that I don't believe I mentioned before, if you look right here, there's a little organ that looks like, I don't know, sometimes it looks a little bit like a little finger. And so it's been called the digitiform gland for that reason. You know, like a digit shaped, that's what the name. People also know it as the rectal gland, or sometimes even the anal gland. At any rate, what this does is it secretes salt. And species that live in fresh water have actually, this thing is like, or bony chondrichthyes that live in fresh water, this is degenerate. Like you see that in the freshwater stingrays of the Amazon. They have degenerate rectal glands. So it's really small in this male specimen. Let's see if it's a little larger in the female here, or if we can even find it. Let's see here. Yeah, it's pretty small in that too. So this is another big difference between an actual dogfish and this shark, whatever it is. Dogfish have much larger rectal glands. Okay, so that concludes this video. It's a pretty short one just to show you guys the internal structure of the gastrovascular cavity.